Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and welcome to another episode of the Daily Red. It is Saturday, the 19th of October, ladies and gents. In just over 24 hours, the Reds are back. The Reds will be facing Chelsea. Super Sunday, 4:30, Anfield, and we all can't wait. But before we get to that, there's quite a bit of stuff to talk about, ladies and gents, in today's Daily Red. There's couple of things that came late yesterday. There was an embargo as well. Woo, woo. So that has been released. We can talk about what Arne Slot said in great depth as well. We'll be talking even more about what he said in different places. We'll be talking about the stories. We'll be talking about former Reds. We'll be talking about sliding doors moment. No idea what I'm doing me on there, but there we go. We will be talking all things on Saturday, the 19th of October, that revolve around Liverpool, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Dave Davis, coming to you from the sun is out, but it's fucking lying because it's bloody freezing at the moment. And here we are. So the winter months are upon us. What will it bring for Liverpool? Well, there's really only one place to start. Some of you may have missed this a little bit, but might not have done, might have seen it. But Arne Slot gave his early press conference yesterday. There's a few quotes that people have fixated on naturally and stuff that people have interpreted in different ways, but the week ahead, and he was asked specifically about the week ahead, and I think this is one of two I want to really bring to attention. So he said, if you judge your team on only a week, that would not be fair. So I think we have to judge as a team after this spell of games, not 3 of them, but 6, 7, 8 of them. Then we know better how we act and how we perform if we play tough Champions League and tough league games. That's normal in everybody's season. We know how difficult it is. We've seen that ourselves 2 years ago when we played Champions League. We've only seen this last season with Manchester United. And the only ones who showed they can perform in the Champions League and in the league are City and Arsenal in the last 2 seasons. So now it's up to us. But I don't think it's fair to judge us after a week, even though if we do really well, it wouldn't be fair. But the best way to judge us is in 4 weeks. Interesting, Arne. Very, very interesting, those comments. I mean, the thing is he said about judging us in 4 weeks. I mean, even this week, let's just break it down. Chelsea at home, Leipzig away, Arsenal away. That is a hell of a run of games, isn't it? It's a tough week coming up for Liverpool. It's right to be excited, but it's also thinking, whew, some tough games there. But I like the way he talks about it. And he's always talked about the fixture list. He's broken it down into parts. The first part that was quite kind to us. It's a good start, but there's tougher games to come. And this is now it, isn't it? This tougher period of games. And he's right. It's not just looking at it in 1 week because, Chelsea, Leipzig, Arsenal away, there's plenty of potential for that to maybe not go exactly how we want it. But at the same time, so what? There's still a lot more games in the season. He's right, though. After this next sort of 8, people talk about it in 10 games. That's the real, I suppose, the start of the assessment, it will be fair to say, on this Liverpool team. So there is a lot coming up in the near future. And the only other one I really wanted to pull out from this, ladies and gents, was in regards to Virgil and talking about his leadership, because we don't praise the skipper enough. We really don't. It seems it's crazy for me that he wasn't in September's Player of the Month nominees. That people are talking about others. For me, the best player in the Premier League right now. Not interested in opinions or others' take on it. Just a fact for me, Rafa Styles. So, what did he say about Virgil van Dijk? He said, he has been crucial for us like many others, but Virgil definitely as well, because he was talking about Trent before. From what you guys see on the pitch, there we see all the same, how good he is, and he is still there in defence and how much he contributes to our offensive side of play. But what you guys don't see, and what I do see, is how important he also is in the training ground. He's always the one that's most loud during the sessions. He always brings a lot of energy into our sessions and quality as well. What you see during the weekend is also what I see during the week. And that's what you're hoping for if you have a captain that is not only showing his performances in the weekend, but also during the week. He is our leader. Absolutely love that, ladies and gents. He is our leader. He has been sensational. Still talking about it in terms of And I love doing that. He's exactly the same on the training ground, that same determination. I still love the fact with Virgil, he almost seems irritated with everyone when he has to defend. Like, you're going to just rely on my brilliance again. I don't mind him shouting, screaming at others. And even that we've seen at times this season when Trent has been caught on the ball. The vice captain doesn't escape a barricade either. That's why he's the leader. Honestly, it kind of staggers me a little bit, and people will probably disagree with this. That's fine, but it genuinely staggers me how much people are not putting him in this Player of the Year so far contendership. That people keep talking about Cole Palmer is the best, and this isn't to be derogatory to Cole Palmer, though I hope he has an absolute stinker tomorrow, of course. But yeah, people don't seem to be putting Virgil in this conversation for Player of the Year so far, which staggers, baffles, whatever adjective you wish to insert, ladies and gents. But for me, absolutely crazy. But you will have your take on it. Now, there's a former couple of Reds, let's say, have been talking about the contracts for the big three. And the contracts for the big three are a hot topic. I'm not escaping that. You're not escaping that at all. You will be talking about it. You will have your thoughts. And so it seems do a couple of players in the form of Mark Lawrenson and Emile Heskey, one being more bullish than the other. So, interesting to see which one you'd pick in this regard. Mark Lawrenson is not confident on Trent. So let's see what he says. He says, I think he has already made his mind up, to be honest with you, because his big mate plays there, doesn't he? And I think he's one of those lads who is very well educated, and he's kind of thinking, you know what, I've done everything at Liverpool I can do. I'm going to Spain. I have to go to Spain to learn the language and take on that challenge. So that's Mark Lawrenson's thinking. Obviously, we hope he is completely wrong. He's not an insight there. That's not to be derogatory of a former Liverpool legend and player, but you'll all have your opinion on the Trent saga at the moment. And being honest, I'm sure you've seen it like me. A lot of people suggesting that Van Dijk, Trent is very close, if not already done. Don't have news to that effect. And at Anfield Index, I've been told by quite a few people that is the case. But for me, until we know, or till we see that Melwood Lean, the pictures thing on the contract, that's when it'll be completely formalised, won't it? Emile Heskey, though, former Liverpool player, he's a bit more bullish, to be honest, ladies and gents. He says, I expect Trent to actually sign a new one. Being a local lad, knowing what it means to play for the club and lift major trophies for the club that you come through the youth ranks, but that is a pretty powerful thing for a footballer. And obviously, we hope Emile Heskey's right. You know, well liked at Anfield. Even if you think Leicester, his local club, he always felt that connection. Do you remember when Leicester were, back in the day, really in trouble debt-wise? Emile Heskey gave £500,000 of his own money. So that tells you about the connection he had with that club. And he hopefully sees that resonate with Trent himself. He also said, Trent's won it all with Boyle Club. He knows he can fulfil all of his ambitions as a player at Liverpool. I hope he continues his Liverpool fairy tale, and I think he will be by signing a new contract. With Mo Salah, I think it all depends on the type of contract he's looking for. Whatever his demands are, I'm guessing they can't or they can be facilitated. And they got the word completely wrong there, didn't I? And a little bit more, he said, the reality is if Liverpool wanted to move him or are happy to move him on, they would have sold him last season when they had that absolutely massive offer from Saudi Arabia. I think that there is a deal that can be structured for Salah that everyone can be happy with. And I do feel the same about Virgil van Dijk. You hope, you pray Emile Heskey and his sentiments are completely correct across the board. It's interesting, and this one's been talked to death. And David Lynch said it on the Big Decisions pod. We did it. Everyone will have heard things, mates that have said this, people in the know, IT, you know, etc., etc. It's all one big discussion at the moment. This will just break from nowhere. It's as simple as that. It will just happen that they either sign, they don't, and we'll have to wait a little bit. But confidence is the funny thing, isn't it? I see people say, I'm confident on this, I'm not. It's just maybe a feeling at the moment, isn't it, more than anything? So we await news, but until we get news, it will be that recurring theme, won't it, for Liverpool? The contracts for the big three. Maybe to a bit of a more jovial topic. Kits. Liverpool kits, Liverpool's home kits, Liverpool's red home kits. What's been your favourite in recent history? Well, Gimme Sport have ranked their top 10. This is an interesting one. Gimme Sport have ranked Liverpool's top 10 greatest home kits of all time. And they've based it on a couple of things. They make it clear how they've done their rankings. They say style, what the kit looks like is the most important thing, the iconic moments that come in the kit, and the key players, i.e. has it been Salah, Kenny, etc., wearing them at key times. So that's how they based their rankings. And funnily enough, I won't give you them all, but they've ranked the 1983 to 1985 Umbro kit as their best kit overall. And you can understand why Gimme Sport have put the 83 to 85 kit at the top, because, I mean, what a team that was. An absolutely unbelievable team. You don't need me to tell you who was in it. A team that just won it all. Maybe we don't need to overanalyze this, but the players they have, if you look at that lineup from 83 to 85, a sequence of legends. The halcyon days at Anfield, they really were. Interestingly as well in the article that Adidas then go 2 through to position number 6. 7 is a New Balance kit, funnily enough. 8 is another Adidas. And 9 and 10, ladies and gents, well, Nike make the kits currently, but Reebok finished that. So not a single Nike kit in that top 10. And maybe, I might be wrong on this, maybe symbolic or maybe a key indicator why we are moving back to Adidas. But there you go. Gimme Sports, top 10 Liverpool kit. Well worth the read, well worth the study through. You will have ones that you prefer just because of, this is the story when I was a kid, mum and dad bought it, yada, yada, yada. Understandable. We'll all have that tint of nostalgia. But to get a full feel of nostalgia, have a read of that article, ladies and gents. Other articles to talk about, and maybe not article actually, but a podcast that Arne Slot did with Men from Blazers. I'm sure we're all familiar with Men from Blazers. So a good one to watch. Naturally, I enjoyed watching it. So you see a more, let's say, because he's, humorous side. Not because he's dead or anything, like, don't get me wrong, or deadpan, but a humorous side of some of his answers to the Arne Slot gave. So a couple of things I'll pull from this that I really liked. First bit was success, on what would success be this season. And think about that for you. What would it be before you read this one? He said, we all measure it in winning things. That's trophies. We're all in this game to win things. We come in every day because we want to win things, but we also understand if you play in the Premier League and Champions League, the margins are so small. Nailed that answer. There was no talk about progressing, getting things right. I'm at a new club, yada, yada, yada. We're trying to bed things in. Nah, Liverpool is measured by that trophy wall, by winning things. That is what it's all about. I absolutely love that as well, the way he put it. So, yes, the fact he said Champions League, would that be your success this season? Be interested. I've not seen many people talk about this. Everyone said it, it's a good start from Arne Slot, which I agree, but what would we define success as? Quite a lot of things coming into that equation. I'm not really any more about that and the Men in Blazers. You can watch that because the focus of this and this little period now is all about the embargo from last night. A fascinating embargo. A couple of comments. He talked about the contracts. He talked about injuries. He talked about many things. But a good question that's been clearly put to him: is this a chance, or is there a chance that with these contracts rumbling on, the situation as it is, this could derail our season? He was quite forthright on this and said, I think you underestimate our players. These players are used to being linked with all the top clubs on a daily basis. if you think they're disturbed by these interests, then I think you don't do justice to how strong they are mentally and what they are used to. And he does talk a little bit about himself. Like, when I was at Feyenoord, I was regularly linked with other places. It doesn't distract me. I like the sentiment. And I think in the short term, that is true. They are ultimate professionals. I'm not doubting the professionalism. You can't have Trent, Mo, and Virgil for one single second. There is another side to this in how long this rumbles on. What I mean by that is, obviously, you probably heard the rumours like I've had that, maybe there's a suggestion that, and you're hoping there's truth to it, that Virgil and Mo are quite close. Sorry, Virgil and Trent even, not Mo, sorry, are quite close, just to be really clear on that. And so this all becomes a moot point, as it were. However, the crucial thing is, the longer this rolls on, if it keeps going into January and past, the focus will just heat up on this. It will start to dominate everything. And it's great to say that you hope it won't, they're ultimate professionals, but you think back to last season, are we going to pretend that the whole Jurgen Klopp leaving so it didn't almost play a part in derailing the focus, the emotions that went into all that? It just felt almost too much, so to speak. I think a little bit at the end, there was too much of this is this player's last game, this is this manager's last game, et cetera, et cetera. So, yeah, in the short term, completely the correct answer. But if this is still rumbling on in January, which it could be with any of these three, hopefully not all of them, hopefully none of them, it could be a different question. So we'll see what comes of that. The other thing he was asked about in his embargo was Alisson. Now, we'd mentioned before Alisson that, he hopes to have him back, but he's out for this foreseeable period. He gave a bit more on Alisson in the embargo. He said, I expect him to be back before Christmas, yes, but you never know. It's always difficult to know how an injury will go in the first stages, so we can answer that question better in 2 or 3 weeks' time. We don't like that answer, do we? It maybe explains why it would be wrong to say he was cagey around Alisson, but he didn't give too much detail in the press conference. And now, obviously, the embargo is saying we probably will know better in 2-3 weeks' time. However, if you think there was almost that he was back before the November international break was the original suggestions. Now he's answering that they expect him back before Christmas, which it's hard to read, and we're probably just going to have to wait this 2 or 3 weeks. But there is a slight concern there, isn't there? Is this going to be longer? How bad is this injury? And it is important to say with Alisson, last season when he had this injury, he was back in 2 weeks, and we all thought, great at the time, but there's also element, my, that was mightily quick. And if you think last season, we also had that element of, oh God, we had 3 players injured and re-injured within a couple of weeks. So you do wonder just how bad is this Alisson injury actually. But as Slot said in the embargo, we're going to have to probably wait a couple of weeks to get the full details. So it really is a fingers crossed, all prayers for the holy goalie returning as quickly as possible. And the final thing to mention from the embargo was he was asked about, was it short-term, long-term? What's your thinking around everything at Liverpool? My main focus is now the short term, and I think in football it's mainly about the short term, especially if you're a manager. We are planning the long term as well, but that's more to help Richard with the long term. My main focus is the short term, and there's nothing too much to be read into that in the sense of, and he alludes to this, yes, he will be asked about contracts. Would you want to keep Salah, Trent and Virgil, which we all know the answer to. He's been quite clear in that anyway, but how does he see the future for the team? Because that factors into it. I know Richard Hughes is ultimately his boss, but there's no way the sporting director of football is looking to sign, renew players for 5-6 years if the manager doesn't want them in that regard. So you think of something like Ibu, it just makes sense, doesn't it? And yes, there's the argument it would be asset protection anyway, but yeah, good to mention that Richard Hughes, because he should, I'm sure he is, a busy gentleman right now as well. And let me give you a bit more, because he does say it would be really weird if I was not involved. There's no sporting director in the world even if you legally have no input, that would bring a player in or extend a player that you didn't want. So, that confirms it now. He's absolutely going to be asked for his opinion. And whilst, yes, Richard Hughes is Arne Slot's boss, his thoughts are going to feed into that decision-making as well. The good thing about being a head coach is that you can always say, if these things come up, go and speak to the sporting director. Not that they, didn't know that it's quite clear, but he's got his focus on the pitch. Not, as he also mentioned, it's not his job to sit in front or talk about agents that way. Now, the final thing, and I'm kind of lying for a second time here, ladies and gents, apologies, because I bet you want to hear some of the embargo stuff. It's weird to say. I know he's mentioned the big three, but just a little bit about Trent, because that's the fever pitch one, isn't it? Everyone, Stevie Wonder can see Real Madrid are interested in Trent Alexander-Arnold. They're waiting to see what will happen. So he was asked about this specifically. There's just a quote worth calling out. He said, "You just focus on what you have to do. Maybe if you're 17 or 18 years of age, that could be difficult for you. But Trent has won the league. He's won the Champions League. And Virgil and Mo the same." So he's being quite honest in terms of, unequivocally, it won't affect them, how he thinks they see it. But also you can tell he's being very praising at the moment of Virgil, Mo and Trent. And so he should, don't get me wrong. But importantly, Arne Slot for us is saying all the right things. And he's mentioned Richard Hughes, who hopefully is a busy man, thrashing out the details of hopefully 3, but we'll just have to wait and see, won't we, how many come to fruition. Everyone is chasing contract news, exactly the same. Let's see what happens. Injury news. We mentioned Alisson. Now, naturally, as well in the press conference, Arne Slot mentioned there's a few injury concerns that we're monitoring, so we'll have to wait and see. So what we also all did was thought, okay, let's see, using the arrival photos, using the training videos, or who's missing, as we always do. Quite naturally, that a lot of people do. The one thing I want to address on this is these straw man people who are just putting nonsense in people's mouths. I keep seeing these comments like, "Oh God, why are people having a panic and a meltdown?" It's not a panic or a meltdown when people say, "I can't see Alexis McAllister in the training photos." It's not a panic or a meltdown that when Paul Gorst puts that article out saying, "Yeah, Alexis McAllister is on his own individual training program at the gym." It's a natural inquisitive question. Honestly, will you stop saying things like, "Meltdown, panic, women, like, move to a slug, Liverpool fans." Honestly, can we not have an educated discussion about this type of thing? It's absolutely crazy at the moment. Let's all just see what we want. Give an opinion. Do you know what? I'm not, but if people do get panicked or worried about it, I understand the logic that it's not worth it at all. It really isn't. But if they want to, crack on. Just let people do what they want to do. Honestly, I don't know what's going on at the moment. People telling people what to do. But anyway, off the soapbox, on to the focus on the field. So Alexis McAllister, individual training program. Harvey Elliott still in rehab, not yet back. Tsimikas missed the training session, ill. Chiesa, we don't know. No sign at all. So we'll have to wait and see. And I'll come to say the lineup and the bits that I think around Chelsea at the end of the show. We have a proud and illustrious history, so let's change a bit now. Roy Hodgson is not part of that. Unfortunately, very fortunately, as per his comments, Bobby Zamora is not part of that. Before people think, Bobby Zamora, yeah, a couple of quotes for him that he mentioned about the time when he was at Fulham. He said, "Roy actually came in for me at Liverpool, and Harry Redknapp came in for me at Spurs. But Mark Hughes said he wanted me to stay, and I just had my twins in August." I think you mean your wife, Bobby, but okay. The end of the transfer window was coming, and they both bid, but I ended up signing a new contract, and I actually broke my leg the next day. Thank God. Not that he broke his leg just before, that makes me seem mean, that he didn't end up a part of Liverpool history like Roy Hodgson, Paul Congesty, Christian Poulsen or anything, because he would have joined that Templar. I have no doubts about it at all. As he said, and then as the article also says in goal, that he actually notched 19 goals that season as Fulham got through to the Europa Cup final. However, after that, he never hit more than 10, and you're looking at numbers like 7 or 8. Would Bobby Zamora have been a good signing for Liverpool? Christ, if you need me to answer that for you, you're beyond help, in all honesty. So maybe one positive of the Roy Hodgson era at Anfield, Bobby Zamora never actually got to join him. We'll take that A, ladies and gents. And the final bit on transfers, now me and Trevor got a while before we regrouped, but we did get a line on this from a few. So we just sort of asked around because there's been a lot of focus on left-back talk, and I cheated a bit because this isn't plugging in, by the way, but I did an article on left-backs Liverpool were targeting because we did get a bit of info, and again, we just share what we get. We're not trying to be ITKs, as you know, with the transfer show. The Liverpool have started looking around the left-back position for next season. That it wasn't a priority this summer. A left-sided defender was talked about, but next summer, it's full focus with Robertson having a year left. Tsimikas, you can probably read the signs, can't you? Two players they have been linked with quite a bit. Ainouri at Wolves, and I think it's pronounced Carreras, although some proposed calling him Alvaro Fernandez, the left back at Benfica, who was formerly at United and sold for peanuts. Now, I know quite a lot of people are quite high on this kid. Very small sample size. Benfica, so people will think Nunes, there's a red flag there. Don't get me wrong. But people like Sam Maguire and quite a few analysts I know are really high on the start he's made. I know we always talk about sample size and wanting 3 years data, etc. However, having dug around, that there's many a player falls into this category. Liverpool are keeping an eye on Carreras. They're aware, but not that anyone has him that he's prominent. I could be wrong on that. I don't know. However, Ainouri, we did get a few saying, yeah, definitely still on Liverpool's radar. So it's just interesting because even Ten Hag was talking about him yesterday, Carreras, wasn't he, in his press conference, saying, yeah, that we have that buyback option. Only United would do something like that, though, wouldn't they? Sell a player that ends up becoming great. It would just be a typical United bit of business recently. Like, it'd also be nice in a way if we got him then, if we feel he's good enough. But yeah, that was the real byline of what me and Trev got. Liverpool are looking at that left-sided defender. And I'm saying that because I'm almost, let me just be clear, because like you in the summer, I may have thought, is it going to be a hybrid like an Ake Gvardiol type? You know, people who looked at like Calafiore, etc., etc. Just being honest, I said left-sided defender. However, left-back specifically is what we were told. So I don't want to be any confusion around that. Could be wrong. It's just when we asked around, journos and the various sources, that's what we got back. There you go. So what's coming up? There'll be a Daily Red tomorrow, so I'll be doing that before I set off for the game. I'll be up nice, bright and early for you in that one. Harry Setti did his normal rival recons. There's a good one with the Chelsea fan as well. I cannot remember his name, apology, but an interesting one, an interesting take from the Chelsea side, so well worth a listen. Raw will be in focus as normal, so Dave, Trev, I believe, and whoever's joining them for that, you know Raw, you know you're listening to it, so it's that straightforward. But most importantly, to end the show, ladies and gents, international football is dead for a small time. The Reds are back for a big time. We want to smash Chelsea, Super Sunday, 4:30, all the time. On Saturday, the 19th of October, that, ladies and gents, was your Daily Red.